So we're going to start in a second. So once we've gotten through the pledge and the roll call, maybe you can check that again. Sure. Double check whether we've got anybody. I'll just leave that screen up so you can see there. We're ready to go. Okay, it's 7 o'clock, Thursday, July 8th, 2021, and I would like to call this meeting of the Town Board of the Town of Northeast to order. I'd like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance, which is right behind that thing there. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Gail, could you conduct a roll call, please?
Supervisor Cannon?
Present.
Councilman Fideli?
Present.
Councilman Kay?
Here.
Councilman Midwood?
Here.
And Councilwoman Morrison? Here. We have quorum.
Thank you. I have one item that I would like to add to the agenda, and that is a potential CFA grant application. With that one amendment, I would like to ask for a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Gail, could you poll the board?
Certainly. Supervisor Cannon?
Aye.
Councilman Fideli?
Aye.
Councilman Kay?
Aye.
Councilman Midwood?
Aye.
Councilwoman Morrison? Aye. Motion passed.
Thank you. A couple of brief comments. The COVID situation in Dutchess County continues to be very reduced as it was last month. We continue to watch it closely because of the presence of variants, but at the moment there are 55 active cases in Dutchess County being monitored by the county, with 3 people in hospital and a 4% infection rate. This week I attended the Dutchess County Supervisors and Mayors Association meeting, which was down in East Fishkill. And most of the conversation there was on the ARPA funding, the federal grants which are coming our way, and the other towns expressed their frustration at not having more details about the funding. They have not been able to get as much detail out of the county as they would like, or out of the state. We are supposed to receive slightly in excess of $300,000, but towns which have a village will be sharing that with the village, roughly in proportion to population. So that would mean that what the town of Northeast is likely to get is something more like $200,000. Anyway, we still are a ways away from that. The state, it first goes from the federal government to the state of New York, and the state of New York is supposed to hand it out by a certain date, but they can apply for a 30-day extension, and then when that extension has run out, they can apply for another 30-day extension. So I think nobody's expecting to see this come in the mail anytime soon. I think that, trying to think of what other items have come up, I think as everybody knows, there's been an election in the village, and the village has a new mayor. Jen Nidek is now the mayor of the village, and there are 2 new trustees of the village. I went to the organizational meeting last night to extend congratulations on behalf of the town and to comment on the good working relationship which the town has had with the village in recent years, and to express my hope that we will continue to have a good working relationship. We have more and more things that we're doing in common with the village, together with the village. We're a small community putting the village and the town together anyway, so it certainly makes a lot of sense for us to be doing as many of these things together as we can. We had a bid opening on the highway garage today. We received bids for the 4 different trades of the highway garage. We have yet to start to even wait and digest them. I am hoping that we will be able to have a board meeting next Thursday, which would be the 15th, I think, at which we would evaluate and decide how we would like to proceed with those bids. I received I'm now going to work my way down the department and committee reports list. I received a report from the village police, but the file was unreadable, and so I sent it back to them, and I haven't gotten a readable copy back. The indication on the computer was that the file was corrupted. So I've asked them to send back a readable copy of the report and suggested that when they do, if they would send it to the clerk, it will be posted on our website. Bob? Mr. Highway?
Yes. I'm looking to purchase an attachment for our grade oil that will help us clean underneath the guide rails, which will improve our roadside drainage. I have 2 quotes. The least expensive is Copeland Equipment Company. It's $6,012. There's only 2 vendors in our area that carry this item, so I can only get 2 quotes.
And how does what does this equipment do that we can't do at the moment?
It actually reaches behind the guide rail and comes underneath and takes all the buildup of leaves and sand and gravel and pulls it back to allow
Pulls it away from the road?
It pulls it away from the road.
Right. And that's because when it builds up there and prevents drainage?
Right, the water can't get off the road and then it runs down and finds a spot and creates a washout.
So you would like to recommend that we accept the lower bid?
Yes.
And that is from which company?
Alta Equipment Company.
Okay, I think the board has that in front of them. Does anybody on the board have any further questions about this equipment? You have money in your budget to cover it? If there are no questions, I would entertain a motion to authorize Bob to accept the bid.
So moved.
Second. John, I think you were first.
All right.
Gail, could you pull the board?
Supervisor Cannon?
Aye.
Councilman Fidelli?
Aye.
Councilman Carey?
Aye.
Councilman Bidwood?
Aye.
Councilwoman Morrison? Aye. Motion passed.
Okay. Anything else Bob has? Roads are roads?
Roads, we're doing okay. The remainder of July, we're gonna be using the shared paver to shim up 8 miles of road to prepare them for oil and stone.
And which roads will those be?
Those will be Haight Road, Perry's Corners, Morse Hill, Parodi, Huckleberry, and Modoc.
Okay. I went, many of you know that McGee Hill Road was closed. I went and looked at the county's project there the other day. They said that was going to be a month and a half. I think we'll be really lucky if that's a month and a half. They have dug the most enormous pit there. They've taken out the road and they're going to be, we'll see. It's going to be a while. And then Smithfield Road, after that, will be subject to closure, and the culvert at the corner of Cooper and Silver Mountain Road is due to be replaced.
Correct. estimating late August for closure, but it depends when they get done with the hit.
Right. Are there any other county projects that you're aware of that will close roads?
Nothing in the Northeast that I'm aware of.
Yeah, okay. Those are the two that I had heard about.
I noticed them down here working on Indian Lake Road.
They were crack sealing, I believe, yesterday, was it?
Just,
Crack seal.
were they preparing for anything or just?
And I believe all they're doing is crack sealing.
Okay.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Let's see if we have anybody, I don't think we have anybody else joining. Catherine, you have a report. I'm going to move the laptop closer to the board right now, just so that they can hear you as well as possible.
Thank you. I'll try to speak loudly if that helps. Just very briefly, summer is quiet, which is enjoyed by us all. So all I have to report is that my final roll was filed on July 1st as required by law. And it is available in my office, in the town clerk's office, and most conveniently online with the link on our website. So that's it for now. I just have 2 items of litigation for executive session later. But if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Anyone have any questions for Catherine?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Later.
Gail, I believe the clerk has a report to give us.
Yes, this is actually for the tax collection. I just want to let everyone know that all the unpaid taxes have actually been turned over to the county. This was done on June 29th. Final payments were made to the town. So in second notice fees, I paid over $244. Also, a check for penalties. That was in the amount of $16,431.72. Overall collection, we had a warrant that was over $5 million. We actually had a collection rate of 94%. And last year, we had a warrant that was $4.8 million, and we had a 91% collection. So we did much better this year. So I just wanted to give you those final numbers. That's
Which
it.
means we're out of tax season now.
That we're out
Final.
of tax season, yes.
Okay. The board should have received from you reports for the planning department, for the planning board, the zoning board, and the building department. I don't believe we have a report from the police services committee. We're probably waiting to hear who the village will appoint to that. I don't know if there's a report on recreation at this point.
Not this time.
No. Or on cemetery, not at this point?
Nothing.
No. And George, anything more on highway that you want to add?
Not at this point.
Okay. I would like to move to item 5, which is, and I will bring the laptop a little closer so that Ray can be heard. But this is with regards to issuing an RFP for handicap accessibility additions to Town Hall. This is something we've been working on for a long time. This is, I think, something that started with George. And it's a challenge because it's a small project. And one might think that a small project is easy, but it's not. It is subject to prevailing wage and a host of requirements that make it really burdensome for a small contractor to bid on it. But Ray, do you want to just tell us what we would be doing in putting this out to bid?
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully everyone can hear me. I'll try to speak a little bit louder. So this goes back to a 2018 Community Development Block Grant application that was submitted, and actually it was submitted as a joint application between the Village of Millerton and the Town of Northeast to complete ADA accessible building improvements to the village hall as well as the town hall. Not sure if everyone realizes, but the village has obviously moved on to a new facility or newer facility, so they decided not to pursue that. And they actually utilized their funding for the improvements of sidewalks, which they are moving forward with. They've actually gotten bids on that, they've signed contracts, and they're moving forward with that work. So the town of Northeast portion, the grant award from the county was in the area of $64,000 or $63,000. And that's to, again, make improvements to the town hall, primarily dealing with the main entrance into the building. That's including improvements at the porch area, as well as the doorway and the hallway leading into the main meeting room. So just recently, the town supervisor has received a contract for signature from the County Department of Planning, which is their standard requirement prior to moving forward with the project as far as going out to bid and making expenditures. But at this point, the plans have been reviewed by the County Planning Department as well as the bid specifications, and the town is ready to move forward as far as putting that project out to bid. As the supervisors indicated, although it's a relatively small project, it is still bound by the procurement policy requirements of the state, as well as the procurement policy requirements of the Community Development Block Grant Program, which is actually funded through HUD. So there's quite a bit of paperwork involved. And so again, although it's a small project and we would love to see local contractors bid on the project, and we encourage and hope that really will happen, many times we find that they're just not interested in moving forward because of the amount of paperwork that's involved. But that being said, I'd like to gain authorization from the town board this evening to go ahead and put that project out to bid. It will need to be notified in the paper. It would also need to be notified through BidNet, which is the county will take care of on their end, through the planning office. And we would like to get those back before the next town board meeting, so that way, in August, so that way the town board can potentially take action on it. As a 2018 project, there has been extensions that have been provided on the project as far as completion, but it is the goal of the county to have the project completed by December 31st and all final payments being sent out for reimbursement to the town by January 31st of 2022. Again, if the project gets done prior to that and final payments are done, obviously that reimbursement can take place before the end.
Okay, thank you, Ray. Does anybody on the board have any questions for Ray regarding this?
Seems like it's very expensive for doorways and a ramp and bathroom. $64,000, a lot of money.
Yep.
Well, we had no choice, is that
This
right?
building is really a challenge for anybody who has handicap issue. The second floor is not accessible at all.
There's no elevator. We're worried about
And
that.
this is a step towards making it compliant. I think as everybody in this room knows, I feel that the town should have a new town hall. But we've got a lot of other projects that we've got to do before that, so don't worry, I'm not going to bring anything to you right now. But I would entertain a motion to authorize Ray to issue an RFP for this project. George, did you have anything you wanted to add?
I just wanted to ask her, Ray, what happens, since this is a small project and we're all a bit concerned as to how many bids, and it's certainly premature to maybe even ask this question, but what happens if we don't receive any bids on it?
Yeah, unfortunately, we just can't hand the project because of the fact that it's overseen by
You
HUD.
can't do it under emergency
No, because keep in mind, it's overseen by HUD, so the town, in addition to the town's procurement policy and the state's procurement policy, HUD oversees the program as well.
So we just have to keep going with RFPs until we finally get a bid?
Yeah, at least one, correct, at least one.
So that'll make it more expensive.
I would entertain a motion to authorize Ray to issue an RFP, and let's see what we get.
So moved.
Yes.
Second.
Gail?
Supervisor Cannon?
Aye.
Councilman Fidelli?
Aye.
Councilman Kaye?
Aye.
Councilman Midwood?
Aye.
Councilwoman Morrison? Aye. Motion passed.
Okay. Ray, thank you very much. I think that is all we need from you at the moment.
One quick question regarding the board meeting for next week. Did the town board set a time for that? Has that officially been set as of yet, or is that going to happen during this meeting?
That will happen during this meeting. My hope is that it will be at 5 o'clock.
Okay. Right. I currently have it in my calendar, so as long as I get a confirmation of that.
Okay. Thank you, Ray.
All right. Have a good evening, everyone.
Okay. Warren, I know you are here, at least electronically. I don't believe that we have anything further that we will need from you this evening, which means we don't have anything that we need from you this evening, other than your presence. So if you would like to sign off, you're welcome to.
If you don't mind, but I don't mind staying if you,
Well,
I don't think you need to go to the executive session.
No,
After, right?
we do not.
Okay.
So,
If you run into trouble, just call me.
right, okay.
All right. Good night, everybody. Keep well.
Right.
Yeah.
See you.
Next item on the agenda is with regards to the COVID protocols for Town Hall. In light of, and this was something that was discussed at the Dutchess County Supervisors and Mayors Association last night. We went around the room seeing which towns have taken what measures. And as you all know, since the federal government changed the guidance on COVID, the mask requirement has generally been lifted for people who have been fully vaccinated. And our guidance for the building since then has been that people who have been fully vaccinated do not have to wear a mask. They're welcome to. And the people who have not been vaccinated must wear a mask or are asked to wear a mask. We have, I think as you all know, installed pass-through windows in the clerk's office, and it was really, the first one was the one in the clerk's office, and then a second one was installed in the vestibule. We put in a half door to the clerk's office, and the door has remained locked. We've had people who've come for meetings, as we are tonight, but it is the exception rather than the rule, and people who have meetings with people in Town Hall make an appointment, or at least knock on the door before they come in. So the real question, in terms of changes to the building itself, we're in this building, so it is what it is. We can continue to make it more secure from a standpoint of not having people walk into offices. As you know, the door of the clerk's office has a half door. The court clerk office has a half door. The clerk's office has a half door. We could add more half doors, but The question that I wanted the board to think about and express your thoughts on is whether to keep the building locked. We would be the only town hall in the county to be operating with a locked door. But I'm interested in hearing the thoughts of the board as to how we would like to move forward.
I think we should open it.
I agree. I always have problems using the key, first of all, but I think the front door should be more accessible.
I think we're at the point now where we can open the town hall for business.
I agree. I think if every other town in the county's doing it, I don't think we should be the one town to keep our doors closed.
We might have the smallest town hall. Actually, I think Pine Plains probably has a smaller town hall. But it is a small building, and it is a difficult, it could make people feel uncomfortable if we have people just wandering around the building. But, of course, we always did have people wandering around the building. My experience in the 2 months that I was supervisor before COVID started was that it wasn't a regular feature of the building to have people wandering around, particularly with the two pass-through windows that we have in the front, which I know, and I have talked with Gail about this, she would like to continue to use, and which I think is terrific. I know Lorna uses it for, for the things that she has to witness and sign and so on, and the court also uses that window for some of their business. My inclination would be, and my recommendation, I think, would be to open the town hall starting tomorrow for people to be in here. I did get a request from the assessor to consider putting a half door in the assessor's office, and if that can make things work better and people feel more secure for that office, I am fine with that.
We could put a sign on the front door that says the town hall is open to all vaccinated people, and if you have not received a vaccination, we request that you wear a mask.
We would be doing that.
Right.
That should be on the door. And we can also say, well, with the door open, if you want to have a meeting with somebody in town hall, you can call them. And we have the list of phone numbers that are out there, and people can do that. That's really what happens at the moment, is it doesn't happen, sometimes people will call and make an appointment ahead of time. But with that, I would entertain a motion to have town hall open with appropriate signage along the lines that you've suggested, which is that people who have been fully vaccinated do not need to wear a mask, although they're welcome to, and that people who have not been vaccinated must wear a mask. Would there be a motion to approve that?
Second.
Gail, can you?
Supervisor Cannon?
Aye.
Councilman Fidelli?
Aye.
Councilman Carey?
Aye.
Councilman Midwood?
Aye.
Councilman Morrison? Aye. Motion passed.
Okay, the item which I mentioned I wanted to add to the agenda is a potential grant application with respect to the old highway garage. As you all know, it's our hope and goal to be out of the old highway garage at some point. That can't happen soon enough from my point of view, and probably from Bob's and from everyone else's. And it raises a question which has been asked by a lot of people what is the town going to do with the highway, with the old building, once that site becomes completely vacant? And I think, as you all know, we removed the oil tanks from there. They were sold, they were put on auction by Bob, and we actually got money for them. We, amazingly enough, were able to sell the old salt shed, also at auction. And the person who bought it I was down there, came down and loaded all those huge concrete blocks and the tent over it. So it's really down to the building. We don't know what the condition of the site is. It's been a garage facility for a long time. It is likely that it's not pristine, and it would be good to know to have a study done of the condition of the site, any encumbrances that we have on the site, and some recommendations as to what can be done with it. It's a really strategic location. It is in the village, it's in a residential neighborhood, it is next to the Weebatuck Creek, it is almost next to the rail trail. It's a long walk, but a walk to Main Street. So it's an important thing, and I think we should not just leave it and leave there. So I've had a conversation with the engineering firm of Ty and Bond, which is doing a lot of work for the village, about possible grants that we might be able to receive to study the future of the old highway garage. And I received a proposal from Ty and Bond to help us submit an application through the New York State Consolidated Funding Application, CFA grant round. In their opinion, the highway garage restoration is a good candidate for funding for a planning grant under the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation non-agricultural, non-point source planning grant. And they would charge us $2,500 for doing that. We have that money in the budget in our grant preparation line, and I think this would be a really good step forward for us. I think it would be good for us to be prepared when we do leave the highway garage to have some data, some information about what could be done with the highway garage, because there are a lot of opinions out there as to what should happen with it. And I think it would be good if we could base some of them at least on actual hard data. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them, but I would like to entertain a motion to authorize me to sign their proposal.
So moved.
I think it's an excellent idea to get opinions as to how that property might be used. I think we all have some ideas now, but I think there are a lot of others that we haven't thought of.
Yeah.
They'll come up with options.
Exactly.
Well, one of the things that's really interesting about it is that, as I think we all know, that part of the village is in a 100-year floodplain.
Yes.
One of the reasons that it isn't in a floodplain is because that building is an encumbrance to water flow when it floods, so that it floods further up South Center Street. Removing the building by itself will probably change the flood designation of that area. One of the other things which they will look at, which I'm both fascinated by and interested in, is the very awkward and badly designed intersection of the Kelsey Brook, the Weebatuck Creek, and South Center Street. We have a 90-degree turn, which is not navigable by a tractor trailer, and the Kelsey Brook dead ends into a wall, turns, and then dead ends again into the Weebatuck. And those things make water flow very difficult, so they contribute to the flooding issue down there. Anyway, those will all be looked at by this firm, which does know a lot about water and water projects.
What about the town, the village septic system? Does that impact that area?
The proposed treatment
It's on the other side of Kelsey
is on the
Brook.
other side of Kelsey Brook and up the hill.
Right.
But it is an issue because access to that site would be necessary if, in the event that there was a malfunction in that treatment plant. And if there's a flood, access would not be possible to that. Fortunately for that, there is also access to that potential site from Sharon Road. So it's not a deal stopper. But it shows you how everything is related to everything else, particularly in a small little town like this. Anyway, I think this will be a useful product for us to have and for the community to have and look at and help people think about what should happen to this. It'll be one of the more interesting and hopefully creative projects that we'll have to think about. So with that, I'd like to entertain a motion to authorize me to accept their proposal.
So moved.
Yeah.
Second.
Okay. Gail?
Supervisor Kennett?
Aye.
Councilman Fidelli?
Aye.
Councilman Kay?
Aye.
Councilman Bitwood?
Aye.
Councilman Morrison? Aye. Motion passed.
Okay. With that, we come to the public comment period, and as hopefully you've all noticed, I've moved the public comment period up on the agenda so that so that people don't have to wait here to the very bitter end of our meetings. So with that, are there any public comments?
Question.
Yeah.
Are there any plans to have public forums for the cannabis retail sales? I know we have to make a decision whether to opt out by the end of the year, and it's already July, so I didn't know if any ideas, like, could it be September, or?
There's no hard proposal at the moment. I think it could be an interesting thing to do. I know that Ancrum is having some kind of an event to do that. That was one of the other things that was discussed at the Supervisors and Mayors Association. And as I think everybody knows, if towns opt out of permitting cannabis sales, they can opt in later. They're free to opt in. If they don't opt out, however, they cannot opt out later. If a town and a village both have, if neither has opted out, and if they both have dispensaries, the tax revenues from those are shared between the town and the village. If one of them has a dispensary and the other does not, but they're permitted in both, the revenues, the tax revenues, still have to be shared. I have heard that the village is unlikely to opt out. So that means that if that turns out to be the case, and if a dispensary was opened in the village, the town would share in that revenue, either by agreement between the village and the town or on a 50-50 basis. I don't think it's going to happen that quickly. The statewide board that's going to oversee this has yet even to be put together. The rules and regulations that they're going to come down with, I think, are going to take a long time. There was, I think one of the things, speaking personally, that I think we should be aware of is that it may not be the gold mine that people think it will be, especially if a lot of towns have dispensaries. people have looked at Great Barrington, which has 4 dispensaries and has reportedly had $1 million of tax revenue from sales. They've got all of Connecticut coming up Route 7 and a lot of eastern New York State going to Great Barrington. So that all changes when New York State opens up and when Connecticut opens up, which it will happen at some point. But I'm certainly open to the idea of having some kind of a colloquium or, gathering, whether at the library annex or maybe at the Legion, some larger place, not here. I'm certainly open to it, and we will have our eye on the clock, on the calendar. Bill?
Hi. I was going to thank you, first of all, for moving out the public comment period, because as much as I enjoy listening to the financial report, having the option to skip it is good. I wanted to ask about the Joint Police Services Committee meeting. It's been quite a while since the last one was held, and I heard what you said, Chris, at the beginning of the meeting, that once the village appointed members, then there was a possibility for a meeting. But I'd like to suggest that sooner rather than later is probably a good idea for the meeting, but also to provide enough advance notice that the public who's interested in observing and providing comment have an opportunity to schedule that, because I know that during the summer people have a lot of things going on. So with that said, is any idea when there might be an next?
I think that's going to depend on the village, right?
Yeah, they have yet to appoint, obviously Josh Schultz was a member of that committee and is no longer on the board. So when they have appointed that, I will reach out to the mayor and the new mayor and suggest that we'd like to see that committee reconstituted and to have another meeting as soon as practicable.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Supervisor's report. This is the part that Bill was waiting for. Budget adjustment. A fund. We have an expense increase of $2,442, less an expense decrease of $1,500, less a revenue increase of $942 for a net of zero. Could I have a motion to approve that budget adjustment?
So moved.
Second.
Gil?
Supervisor Kennett?
Aye.
Councilman Fidelli?
Aye.
Councilman Carey?
Aye.
Councilman Bidwood?
Aye.
Councilman Morrison?
Aye.
Motion passed.
For B fund, have an expense increase of $2,595, less a revenue increase of $2,595 for a net of zero. Could I have a motion to approve the budget adjustment for B fund?
So moved.
Second.
Supervisor Kennett?
Aye.
Councilman Fidelli?
Aye.
Councilman Carey?
Aye.
Councilman Bidwood?
Aye.
Councilman Morrison? Motion passed.
On that note, I would just mention that one of the things which we recently did, I should have mentioned this in my opening speech, was to have the bulk trash day. We've essentially taken the bulk trash day over from the village. The village used to run that. When COVID came, there was no interest on their part in being part of it anymore. But we've now done 2 bulk trash days. I want to thank Bob for all of his help in making that go well. One of the things we have focused on is getting refrigerators and air conditioners there. We have a separate container simply for them so that they're not just thrown in and breaking apart and so on and releasing Freon. That Freon is then, or whatever that gas is which is a bad gas, is then removed professionally, so those items cost more. We pay more to have that done, but we got quite a few air conditioners and a number of refrigerators. So that's one of the things I think is great about it. The other thing is that we made a slight surplus this year. So we lost a little money the last time, we made a little money this time. So we're trying to do a service for the community that is break even, but it's something that people really like, and I certainly plan to continue it. I have a special abstract dated June 28, 2021, totaling $696.88, broken down as follows. A fund, $696.88. Could I have a motion to approve the abstract?
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
Supervisor Kenneth?
Aye.
Councilman Fidelli?
Aye.
Councilman Kaye?
Aye.
Councilman Midwood?
Aye.
Councilwoman Morrison?
Aye.
Motion passed.
Okay, thank you. With that, we have voucher committee.
There's one more, Chris. There's an abstract for July 8th.
It's probably gotten attached to the back of one of these other ones. Is that this one?
Or is that it right there? Yeah, right on top.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Abstract dated July 8th, 2021, totaling $86,598.79, broken down as follows. A fund, $43,181.42. B fund, $757.09. DB fund, $22,626.13. Capital Projects Fund, $18,900. T&A2 escrow, $911.91. Payroll T&A, $222.24. Could I have a motion to accept the abstract?
So moved.
Second.
Supervisor Kenneth?
Aye.
Councilman Fidelli?
Aye.
Councilman Kaye?
Aye.
Councilman Midwood?
Aye.
Councilwoman Morrison? Motion passed.
Thank you. The voucher committee for August will be Lana Morrison and John Midwood. Gail has distributed minutes from the meeting of June 10th to the board. If you've all had a chance to look at those, any comments?
No problems with it.
As usual, no problems with the minutes.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Gail?
Supervisor Kenneth?
Aye.
Councilman Fidelli?
Aye.
Councilman Kaye?
Aye.
Councilman Midwood?
Aye.
Councilwoman Morrison? Motion passed.
Okay, thank you. With that, I would like to entertain a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of hearing about a litigation matter from the assessor.
So moved.
Second.
Supervisor Kenneth?
Aye.
Councilman Fidelli?
Aye.
Councilman Kaye?
Aye.
Councilman Midwood?
Aye.
Councilwoman Morrison? Motion passed.
Okay, we will excuse everybody. We will excuse everybody who's on the line, with the exception of Catherine Johnson.